What if I told you that the Bank of England, one of the world's oldest and most powerful central banks, is sitting on a £134 billion ticking time bomb? That's right. The very institution that is supposed to safeguard Britain's financial stability has effectively made a giant gamble. A gamble so risky that it could cost taxpayers more than the entire United Kingdom education budget. And here's the kicker. This gamble isn't about Bitcoin, meme stocks, or risky hedge funds. No. It's about the very bonds and money printing that underpin the United Kingdom economy. Today, we're diving deep into the Bank of England's £134 billion gamble. How it happened, why it matters, and what it could mean for your money, your mortgage, and your future. Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you'll understand why this gamble could reshape not just the United Kingdom economy, but also the global trust in central banking itself. How did we get here? The era of quantitative easing. Let's rewind to 2008, the global financial crisis. Banks were collapsing, governments were panicking, and central banks like the Bank of England had one solution: quantitative easing. Quantitative easing was basically this. The Bank of England created money electronically. It used that money to buy government bonds, also called gilts. By doing this, it pushed interest rates down and pumped liquidity into the system. Between 2009 and 2021, the Bank of England bought a staggering £875 billion worth of government bonds. The theory was simple. If the Bank of England bought up gilts, bond prices would rise, yields would fall, and borrowing costs would drop, stimulating the economy. And for a while, it worked. Britain avoided total collapse in 2008. The same playbook was used again during the COVID-19 crisis in 2020. But here's the problem. Every gamble looks smart until the tables turn. The gamble explained! Here's the crucial bit. The Bank of England bought those bonds when interest rates were near zero. Fast forward to today, interest rates are at 4%. Bond yields are much higher. And when yields rise, the market value of bonds falls. That means the Bank of England is now holding hundreds of billions in bonds that are worth far less than what they paid for them. So when the bank tries to sell them, it has to take a loss. And those losses, they're expected to total about £134 billion. That's the gamble. The Bank of England bet that it could eventually unwind quantitative easing, known as quantitative tightening, without breaking the system. But so far, the losses are mounting. What's new in 2025? This isn't just old news. The gamble is still unfolding. Right now, here's the latest. 1. Quantitative tightening slowed down. Originally, the Bank of England was planning to shrink its bond holdings by about £100 billion per year. But in September 2025, it announced that the pace would be cut to £70 billion per year. Why? Because selling too many bonds, especially long-dated ones, was causing turmoil in the markets. 2. Shifting strategy. Instead of dumping long-term gilts, the Bank of England will now focus on shorter and medium-term bonds. That means around 40% short-dated, 40% medium-dated, and just 20% long-dated. 3. Inflation stubbornly high despite rate cuts in 2024, inflation isn't beaten yet. It's stuck around 4% and only expected to fall back to the 2% target by 2027. 4. Split votes at the Monetary Policy Committee. The Bank of England's own policymakers are divided. Some say quantitative tightening needs to be slowed further. Others say keep the pressure on. Catherine Mann argued for an even sharper slowdown. Chief economist Hugh Pill wanted to stick with the original pace. This is not a united front, and markets hate uncertainty. Why it's a gamble? So why is this so dangerous? Massive losses. The £134 billion loss isn't just an accounting quirk. These are losses that taxpayers will ultimately bear. Every pound lost is a pound the Treasury can't use for schools, hospitals, or pensions. Borrowing costs. Rising. Gilt yields are spiking, especially on long-dated bonds. That means the United Kingdom government's borrowing costs are higher than ever. Debt servicing already eats up a huge chunk of the budget. Market stability at risk. Remember the 2022 pension fund crisis, when gilt yields spiked and nearly broke the system? The Bank of England's quantitative tightening strategy risks bringing that kind of turmoil back. Inflation pressure. If the Bank of England slows quantitative tightening too much, it risks leaving too much money sloshing around the system, which could keep inflation sticky. Political fallout. Ordinary Britons are asking, why should taxpayers foot the bill for the Bank of England's decisions? Politicians are starting to whisper about accountability. Global context. This isn't just a United Kingdom story. Central banks around the world are grappling with the same problem. The United States Federal Reserve has also built up trillions in bonds. The European Central Bank is in a similar position, facing losses as yields rise. But here's the twist. The United Kingdom's reliance on international investors to buy gilts makes it especially vulnerable. If confidence drops, investors could demand even higher yields to hold United Kingdom debt. That would make borrowing costs spiral. It's not just a gamble for Britain, it's a gamble with global consequences. Winners and losers. Let's talk about who gains and who loses. Winners, savers, who now get better returns on savings accounts. Some foreign investors who benefit from higher United Kingdom yields. Losers, taxpayers who are on the hook for the Bank of England's losses. Mortgage holders who face higher rates. Businesses squeezed by more expensive borrowing. The United Kingdom government paying billions more in debt interest. And let's not forget pension funds. They are heavily exposed to gilts. Volatility in this market directly affects retirement security. Historical parallels. This isn't the first time the Bank of England has taken a massive gamble. In 1992, the United Kingdom crashed out of the European exchange rate mechanism on Black Wednesday, costing taxpayers billions. In 2008, 09 quantitative easing was a radical gamble. One that seemed smart in the short term, but left this £134 billion time bomb in its wake. History tells us when central banks gamble, the public pays the price. The future. What if scenarios? Let's play out some scenarios. 1. Best case inflation falls faster than expected. Interest rates can be cut. Bond losses shrink as yields fall. Quantitative tightening proceeds smoothly at £70 billion per year. Taxpayer losses are painful but manageable. 2. Worst case, inflation stays sticky. The Bank of England is forced to keep rates high. Bond losses deepen beyond £134 billion. Pension funds or banks get caught in another bond market crisis. The government faces skyrocketing borrowing costs, forcing austerity measures. 3. Wildcard, a global shock, say an oil crisis or geopolitical conflict, drives inflation higher. The Bank of England is trapped. Cut rates and risk inflation, or hold rates and risk crashing the bond market. What it means for you. This isn't just a story for economists. It affects you directly. If you have a mortgage, your payments depend on how this gamble plays out. If you're a taxpayer, your money is tied up in the Bank of England's losses. If you're saving for retirement, your pension may be exposed to gilt volatility. This isn't some distant policy experiment. It's a gamble with real consequences for every household in Britain. The big question, was it worth it? Here's the uncomfortable truth. Quantitative easing may have saved the United Kingdom economy in the short term, but unwinding it is proving far more costly than advertised. Was it worth it? Did the Bank of England overplay its hand? Or was this gamble always inevitable in a system addicted to cheap money? That's the debate raging right now. Conclusion. The Bank of England's £134 billion gamble is a stark reminder that even the most powerful financial institutions can make bets that don't pay off. The question is, who pays the price? Spoiler alert, it's not the central bankers. It's you. So the next time you hear about quantitative easing or bond market operations, remember, behind the jargon lies a high-stakes gamble that could shape your financial future for decades. What do you think? Should central banks be held accountable for these losses? Or was quantitative easing the only option back in 2008 and 2020? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I read them all. And if you found this breakdown useful, hit that like button, subscribe for more deep dives, and share this video with someone who needs to understand what's really happening with the Bank of England. Because this gamble isn't just about numbers on a spreadsheet. It's about the future of the economy we all live in. This is Felix. See you next time.